So Jerry died July 23rd, 2022, found in his hotel room down. He had died sometime late the night before, and he was found when he didn't report for his duties in the morning. And that was the end of his journey. But with his death came the beginning of mine. And maybe that sounds selfish to you, but I guess it is. There's nothing I can do about him dying. So what I focused on moving forward is, what can I learn from all of this? What can I learn from his death, our relationship, and the last 12 months? First, I made it through 52 entire weeks. I survived. I feel like I should get some sort of gold star for sure. But if you think about it, you only really had three options. The first one is, you can be so upset you go kill yourself. I'm not suicidal. The second one is, you can downward spiral and lose everything you've ever worked for in your life. That seemed like a really bad decision. And the other option is just put one foot in front of the other. And so every day for the last year, I have focused on putting one foot in front of the other. And I tell you, this is a messy journey. I don't know how many people have dealt with grief. The problem is, at our age, it hasn't been as many as you would expect, right? You look to the older people to guide you, because when he passed, what was my point of reference? Like, I went to my parents who had lost their parents and their siblings. I went to my neighbors who had lost their husbands, and they're in their 80s, but they had some real wisdom for me. And I think that's sometimes where we shortchange older people in our society, which is a shame. There's so much wisdom and so much we can learn from and emulate. And I'm so grateful that they all showed up for me. So, this journey, guys, you know how when you go, let's say you're going to get an ice cream, you go to Baskin Robbins and you're like, well, what's that flavor? And they give you that tiny little spoon, they just do the little scoop and you try it. And you're trying to assess, is this what I really want? Like, how does this taste? Well, in terms of grief, the only thing I had really experienced before was my little Baskin Robbins spoon. I had a horrific relationship breakup about 12 years ago. It was so bad, but I would count that as the Baskin Robbins little spoon compared to this. So that was really my only taste at severe, tragic loss. And it's telling. You only have what you have to draw on. So that's where my whole journey begins. So the next day, I wake up, and everyone has been through something where you wake up in the morning and you have that 1,000, 2,000, and those 2 seconds, you don't really maybe know where you are yet. You're not awake. You don't remember anything. You're just waking up. And then the tidal wave hits you and everything comes roaring back. So there I was, the 24th in the morning. I managed to sleep, I think, just out of sheer exhaustion. I woke up going, where am I? Well, I was in the same hotel where he passed. I was in that same hotel, different room, same hotel. I had his luggage at the end of the bed. I had my whole backpack, which, by the way, you've never seen a more poorly tacked backpack than mine. I forgot a toothbrush, I forgot a hairbrush, I forgot everything. I also didn't care. Neither here nor there. But I woke up and the whole tidal wave hit me, and every possible thought and memory and everything just came pouring over me. What the hell am I supposed to do? I have no idea. The only thing I knew for sure is that he needed to go to the coroner's office, pick up his things, and kind of figure it out. He was across state lines. I knew they had to do an autopsy. Honestly, he was at a complete loss. I obviously was just putting one foot in front of the other. I don't remember being able to feel my feet, but obviously my feet were working since I was moving. So, grieving. Be honest with you guys, because that's the way Jerry would have wanted it, right? The first 6 months, not every day, but many days, I was actually screaming into the air, pissed. Not mad that he died. You can't be mad at someone for dying, okay? It is what it is. Pissed because he left me with a mess. A financial mess, a physical mess. You guys, he was not a clean person, okay? But there was so much to clean up. He was a young person, right? There's no will. There's no life insurance. There's nothing. And, he never really talked about it, guys, but the pandemic nearly killed his business. He lost almost everything. And people could say, Erin, I can't believe you would say that. Why not? He would say all of the things because he kept it that real. So that was the bleak reality of coming home, was a disaster. Not only did I feel like a disaster, but there was an actual disaster to clean up. I'd say for 2 or 3 months after being absolutely livid, I stopped screaming. I was just sort of irritated. That girl, like pissy, annoying thing, probably for 2 or 3 months. And it was after that where I felt like I could remember the good things. I could remember the happy times, the fun we had. We would clown so much and laugh, and we just had the best time. And we were friends for years before we got married. But guys, it took me a really long time to get to that point. It took me a really long time to be able to go into the gym and not cry. I was a mess. Imagine you see some girl in the gym, there you are doing, freaking bicep curls or whatever, and I'm trying to do like walking lunges, crying my eyes out. It was a mess. It was not pretty. It was not something anybody wanted to see. People would stare at me all the time and try to do the look, and try to figure out what the hell I was doing. And frankly, so was I. It's hard when you lose someone that's not only your best friend, but your husband and your trainer. It was bad. And eventually, very recently, I was like, you know what? I loved the gym before I ever loved him. It was always my thing. That's where I would go and burn off whatever kind of bad energy I was feeling, or just to make myself feel better. It was always my place. So I had gotten away from the place that made me feel better, because it turned out the place that made me feel better made me feel worse. That's a mind fuck. But I did it eventually. But there were a lot of hiccups along the way, and a lot of stresses that I had to deal with that maybe you wouldn't think about. Like, how about 2 weeks after he died, I was like, you know what, I've got to drive his car. I have to drive it. I can't just let a car sit. I got in the car, and do you know that every dash light came on? Do you know that one of the cylinders had broken? I got it to the dealer, and they showed me this horrific laundry list of everything that was wrong with this car. I swear to you when I say his car died with him. It died, you guys. It was not drivable. And I was just like, you've got to be joking. Everything. I had a knock on the door beginning of August, and it was a driver from, and I've seen him before, an 18-wheeler guy. He was like, yeah, I have a huge shipment for GIFD Labs. Oh my God. You what? You have what? So I actually said, I'm like, the owner's dead. I'm not taking responsibility for his company. Nope. And he's like, no, but it's paid for. You just have to take it. I said, I'm not assuming responsibility. You can have all of it if you want. You can burn it. I can't take it. Thank you. Please turn around. And that was a bizarre experience. There's been so many experiences like this, people that have come out of the woodwork. Sometimes you just think that maybe people don't really like you that much, or maybe you have a few close people. But sometimes when something like this happens, you start to realize that there are a lot of people who actually love you, and maybe you didn't even know. Maybe we don't talk about it enough. And I think that's definitely one of the lessons I've learned is, we need to talk about that more, because I kept saying out loud, I'm like, when did all these people decide they like me? When did this happen? And I think when you get down to it, we just don't tell each other, right? I don't know if it's pride, ego, time. We're all living our own lives, but I think we forget to tell each other how we feel, even if it's small. But there are people there who will support you. And it's funny, right? Because the YouTubers were fascinating. So obviously, people like Greg Valentino, right? I mean, he's as real as they get. He couldn't be any more real. His conversation, I mean, he is just a doll. He's so emotional and beautiful and amazing. And his friendship just transcends. And let me tell you, you haven't lived until you've heard a conversation of Greg Valentino and Jerry on the phone on speakerphone. My God, a little too much. Obviously, I talked to Nick Trigili. I used to hear Jerry watching his videos a lot. And one day I said, what's the deal? You're always listening to Nick. And I said, is he like your favorite YouTuber or something? He goes, no. He's like, honestly, I don't agree with him very much. And I said, you don't? Then why do you listen to him? And he goes, because I'm still interested in how he thinks. He's like, I'm open to his ideas. I want to hear what he has to say. I always thought that's actually really cool. I like that. And like John Bravo, he sent me the video he was putting out about Jerry before he put it out so I could say it was okay. And it was funny to me because the only John Bravo I even knew about was the psycho screaming guy in the the Predator videos, the prank Predator videos. I thought, I mean, he's so real. I was like, that guy's angry. And it turns out that's just a character and that's not him. But I got to learn a whole other side of people. Phil Heath, who stood up and talked at his funeral, his incredible, to say the least, wife Cherie. These people are incredible. They are beautiful, helpful, sweet people. And there are so many more, right? But you start to see other parts of these people that maybe you knew, but you didn't know. And I appreciated that. So, what have I come out of this thinking, right? And I think at the beginning, the only thing I had was start where you are. And I think that's the same whether you're in bodybuilding, in fitness, if you're trying to go to school for something, if you're trying to grade, anything you're doing, you can only start where you are. That's all you know. That is your point of reference. So just start where you are. And for me, where I was standing there staring at holes in the wall, and I wasn't going to have it. So the first thing I did was patch the holes in the wall and repaint. And yeah, that sounds pretty negative, but you know what? That's the quiet part out loud, right? That's the part no one wants to talk about. No one wants to talk about the fact that we got into an argument the day before he left for the show, of all things, over Brady's flea and tech medicine. Flea and tech medicine. That's what we were arguing about. And I was so mad we were arguing about it. But he was really focused on what he wanted. And it's a shame because that was my last interaction. We talked a little bit on the phone during that week, but we have this understanding that when he's working like that, I know he's working. I don't have an issue. He calls me when he can. He texts me when he can. And that day that he passed, we talked a little bit, that on that Friday, we talked a little bit. Honestly, the last thing we texted about is I was teasing him and asking him if his little girlfriend, who was this girl he had this much of a crush on, was around or not, because I liked to tease him about it. I was never mad. And he was like, no, she's not here. And he laughed. But that was our last interaction. So the last time I really saw him, we had an argument about flea and tick medicine. And then the last text message was us goofing on each other. I mean, I guess it's appropriate, but my God, you just wish it kind of hadn't been that way. You wish that it would have been sweeter, or I don't know, something more meaningful than flea and tick medicine. But this is life. Obviously the thing is that when Jerry died, he died authentically himself. He knew he didn't feel well. He knew he was feeling worse. Of course he didn't go to the doctor. And I say it like that for a reason. Of course he wouldn't go to the doctor. You know what he did? He tried to go back to the room and sleep it off. How'd that go? But that was authentically him. And you can't get mad at someone for being exactly who they are. And people kept asking me, are you so mad he didn't go to the doctor? Are you so pissed at him? No, because that's him. You cannot possibly expect a man who has not been to a doctor and, well, the whole time I knew him, to suddenly say, oh, I don't feel well. I think I'm going to go to the doctor now. It's likely not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. And he didn't have time to call me. And not only that, but it was late at night and he knew that I go to bed early and he wouldn't want to wake me up. So even in death, he was trying not to bother me. And knowing him, he never thought he would die. If he actually thought he was going to die, I know he would have called. I don't have any issue with that. I never felt angry about that at all. But, in the last 3 years, as much as I've been trying to deal with and go through, I've had all of my labs drawn 3 times. I don't miss appointments. Not only my general practitioner, Titan Medical, I've done 2 complete rounds with Titan Medical. They take care of me constantly. All I'm saying is, how much more do you think that you could control about your life? Maybe. If you continue to get your labs done, go to the doctor, take care of yourself. If you're some big bodybuilder and you've got some big ego and you can't go to a general practitioner, fine, go to Titan. Go to these clinics who will actually listen to you and care about you. There are options. You don't have to say, well, I can't go to any doctor. There are other options out there. Don't limit yourself. And, the thing about people who are grieving is that it's not linear. You might see me one day laughing, and I seem pretty easygoing. You may see me another day and I'm very quiet. I'm almost like a quiet storm. And you might see me in between. You might see me at the grocery store crying. I can't even tell you why I'm crying, right? But things hit you sometimes. It's like, okay, I work in an operating room. And I'm lucky enough that we get to listen to XM radio. And we have a couple of surgeons who are very cool and like to sometimes listen to some more upbeat music. Well, I'm in the room and Kickstart My Heart comes on one day. Why do I care? Well, what if I told you when I got the phone call when I was at the gym, I was doing leg day and I was listening on repeat to Kickstart Your Heart because I just vibed with it. That's what I needed. I was going to get through that workout. That was my song. And then you're in the OR, you're at work, you're focused, and you hear Kickstart My Heart. Things hit you. One line in a song, someone's cologne. Maybe you see someone say something in a video that goes, wow, that really reminds me of him. Things hit you when you don't expect them to hit you. So just because maybe we're not sitting there in front of you crying our eyes out and screaming and all of the things does not mean that the pain isn't there. And you learn to take the pain and go, well, there's nothing I can do with this, right? Except for just try to manage it. So you hold on to it. It's not going anywhere. It waits for you. You go to work, you leave it at the door. When you leave, you pick it back up and you take it home with you. You can cry all the way home if you want to, get through your workday. And that's just how life has to be. Which brings me to my next point. Please go to therapy. I don't care if you have a grief issue. I promise you, there are so many people out there with attachment issues, who have childhood issues, trauma, abuse. It goes on and on. Please go to therapy. I have been in therapy since the day before his funeral, and I have not stopped. And I have no intention on stopping now. I have learned so much about myself, about our relationship, about who I want to be in a relationship, and how I'm going to work every day on being a better person because I've had to identify the things that I need to work on. It hurts, guys. It's not fun. There's nothing fun about therapy, but it has given me the tools to survive during this because I didn't know what to do. I did not know how to get yourself out of one of those little spirals that some days you just have bad days, right? Especially at the beginning. I didn't know how to pull myself out of that space. But therapy helps you learn. They give you the tools to figure it out. So please consider that. These are all of the things that seem really obvious, but they couldn't be more true. And for your friends out there, maybe you don't talk to them all the time. Make sure that they know that you're thinking about them sometimes. And last but not least, if someone asks you a question, always give them the real answer. I had a couple of people at work say, so I know you have a couple days off because of, the anniversary of his death. What do you think you're going to do this week? And I looked at them very calmly and said, cry every day. I said, I hate to say that, but likely cry every day, right? I'm not just crying because I'm sad and he's dead. You're mourning the future that you thought you had. You are sometimes crying, it's like yelling, right? Yelling and crying are so much easier than being vulnerable and being verbal and being authentically you, because that is scary. So sometimes crying is You can be mad and cry. You can be sad and cry. You can be all of the things and cry. You can be happy and cry, because crying sometimes is easier than the actual expression of how you feel. So that's life. Anyway, I appreciate you following this for the entire 20 minutes all the way through. And just know that this is a long journey. And I'm just getting started, but I made it a year. And there have been so many of you who have reached out to me and genuinely cared about me and my well-being. Brady, just saying, hey man, how's it going? And my favorite phrase, that one person from a long time ago, I mean, we're talking 20 years ago, he had written a Christmas card, and when he signed it, he said, hope you're making it work. And he signed his name. And I loved it, because it's not be strong, whatever that means. And it's not, hey, I'm thinking about you. Okay, cool. But hope you're making it work. Yes, that is my version of keeping it real, because that's what you can do. You're making it work. So for all of you, keep making it work and keep trying to elevate yourself and think about what you could do to make yourself healthier and the people around you, you know, maybe in a better spot if something horrible were to happen to you. Just give it a thought. And I'll talk to you guys soon.